Live.
Hello and welcome, guys, to the 5th episode of You Only Be School Once Season 2. I'm your host. Akshay Sirsalewala. Sorry for this technical glitch up. I'm your host Akshay Sirsalewala. For those who don't know, I'm a chartered accountant. I've cleared all levels of CFA and FRM. I graduated from IIM-K in 2020, worked with Deloitte for a couple of years, and currently I'm working with BCG. I've been associated with Inside IIM now since 2018, and I hope that goes on for a long time. So today what we'll discuss is how to get top sales and marketing roles on campus. Now, sales and marketing is one of the most sought after profiles on campus, and they have a different way of interviews than finance and consulting companies. There are quite a few rumors. So many people say that they prefer to have freshers. Many people say they prefer to have engineers only. So what we are doing today is we are going to bust some myths and give you some gyan on how you can make your CV more friendly towards the S&M profile. And to help us in that, we have two people who got dream S&M profiles from campus. So guys, over to you. Let's start with Shubham. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, everyone, I am Shubham Agarwal. I'm an MBA graduate from MDA Gurgaon, specialized in marketing, and I'm a PP holder from Edelweiss Tokyo. My profile being in digital marketing and e-commerce.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Shubham. Shachin, why don't you go next?
Hi everyone, I'm Shachin. So I recently graduated from IIM Kozhikode. So I'll be joining Pidilite in their sales and marketing management trainee program soon. So I graduated as an engineer and then have a couple of years of work ex in a startup before I joined IIM Kozhikode for my MBA. So looking forward to the discussion.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Shachin. Thank you, Shubham. Just one disclaimer. So our third guest is not yet here. If she joins, we'll be happy to take her in. But as of now, we only have two panelists. So yes. So guys, let's start with the first question, and it's a very basic one. Honestly, when I came to campus, I was not even sure what exactly do S&M folks do. So can you please shed some light ki actually karte kya ho tum log? And also, can you also talk about some roles which come on campus? Maybe digital marketing, brand management, etc. Whatever jo bhi roles aate, can you also shed some light on it? It will be very helpful.
So I'll take a shot. So in IIM Kozhikode, in summers for S&M role, a lot of FMCG companies and startups come in. So most of them offer a typical sales and marketing role, which involves a lot of market research, market insight collection, etc. And few projects revolve around improving sales teams efficiency or improving sales in a particular region, wherein you work on the strategy part while alongside the executives who are full-time, you make sure that you are able to implement the strategy. So the other roles that startups offer would include growth hacking, digital marketing or business development by this startups, say Udan or the other major startups. So these companies focus on B2B sales, which involves going and talking to retailers or distributors, wherein again, on a hindsight, you will be doing market analysis and market research, while your recommendation would involve creating a strategy for them. So that's how the roles that come for summers in IIM Kozhikode.
And if you talk about Pidilite, is that more B2B or B2C?
So Pidilite has a lot of brands. So depending on the brand you get during your summers, so it will be a B2B sales or B2C sales. So I worked in consumer products division in their brand Fevicryl, which is basically their arts and stationery product division. So this directly works with the consumers, but then if you go for Fevicol or Dr. Fixit, the entire customer base changes into people who are in the construction business.
Okay.
That becomes a B2B sales.
So I'm assuming that would entail a lot of traveling, etc.
Yeah, a lot of traveling would involve. So for my batch, since it was the second wave of pandemic was going on, we didn't travel a lot, but my juniors are traveling a lot in the 2 months of internship. We have covered like 13, 14 places in 2 months. Yeah, ideally, a lot of travel is involved.
Right. So if you are a travel fan, go for an S&M role. Right, moving on to you. Yes, can you also shed some light on some other roles?
Yes, so I'll be speaking more about the digital marketing and e-commerce part. So digital marketing per se, when we talk about digital marketing, the roles that come on campus, it is again more research based and
Okay.
specifically more on the lines of the consumer journey that they'll ask you to analyze the end-to-end consumer journey that you
Right.
have across companies, competitive analysis, benchmarking, and that is what digital marketing does not entail that you will directly go into managing campaigns and all. And when you
Right.
specifically talk about e-commerce, as Flipkart,
Right.
Amazon, they are one of the best companies that come on campus. So
Right.
they also don't offer you that. Again, it's a project based, and mainly for summers, it will be more on the research angle that they'll provide you a particular category, a particular product, maybe
Right.
something very functional like seller onboarding or something. And then you have to conduct a thorough research and provide your recommendations to improve the overall process. So that is more of what goes on. And even for SNM, as we talk about, like very few sales FMCG companies actually will offer you roles that would require you to go on field and interact with
Okay.
the stakeholders, different stakeholders. Most of the FMCGs again offer you research and market analysis projects for summer internships.
Right. So actually, research was mentioned by you and Shachin both. So if I mean, so when you say research, is it primary research where you actually go and talk to people, or is it more secondary where you are looking at reports, googling, etc.? I mean, what exactly do you mean by research?
It completely depends on the project that you have been offered, but generally a project has both parts. So I'll talk about my project that I got at Edelweiss. So my project was to analyze the consumer journey and if there are any problems or shortcomings overall in the consumer
Right.
experience. So
Right.
that entailed not only my competitive research, that is the secondary research as we talk about,
Right.
but
Right.
also interacting with consumers, putting myself as a research or a employee of Edelweiss Tokyo, and
Right.
then asking them questions, asking their reviews. So it included around interacting with 200, 300 customers as well. So it completely depends on the project,
Right.
but it generally has 200 parts, both the parts.
Got it. Okay. Great. Okay. So moving on to the next question. Now, there is a lot of confusion regarding who is the right fit. So, uh, you know, what do you think? Is there a right fit? Because personally, I feel that there is no right fit for any role. Because I mean, engineers also get easily they get finance roles. Freshers also get consulting roles. Everybody can get into every place. You know, there is no boundary as such. But what do you think? Do you think that is there an ideal profile? Do S&M companies prefer freshers? And also, can you also talk about WorkX? Does WorkX play an important part?
So, yeah, when I joined IIM Kozhikode, I had this perception that S&M companies or profiles that want S&M would want freshers, but then it was a complete reality check when I started to get shortlists from most of the top companies. So I come with the 2 years of work ex, and a lot of my friends who had work experience did get shortlists from top FMCG companies for their S&M profile. At the same time, as usual, freshers also do get. So there isn't any standard profile or set kind of persona that these companies are looking for. Rather, they would want to understand how interested you are in interacting with people, or how much innovative and initiative you take up, and that's the story that you communicate through your CV. So you should ideally focus on storytelling and focusing on telling these recruiters that you are an innovative person, you like to interact with consumers or people in general, and you take up a
Right.
lot of innovative ideas and make it take it through completion. So that's more important, because coming up with an idea doesn't matter for these companies. They want someone to initiate it and then take it to completion. So this is the kind of story we try to communicate through our CVs, and this is what is the suggestions and recommendations we got from our seniors. So I think there isn't any standard set of rules and regulations that the recruiters follow to
Hmm.
shortlist candidates.
Got it. Got it. Also, do you think so? Was your experience in the sales and marketing domain, or
No, my experience was not in the sales and marketing domain, but then it was a startup, so I had a spectrum of experience
okay,
across various functions.
right?
So I was working in the CEO's office, so I had work ex in human resource, I had work ex in, I mean, experience per se,
Hmm.
short stints of 4 months, 5 months. So that's the perk of working in a very small early stage startup. You get to explore a lot of different functions. So I had 3, 4 months of workings in a digital marketing role. But more than that, I have taken up internships while I was doing my engineering itself to explore marketing,
Okay,
and that probably would have helped me convince the recruiter that I am interested in sales and marketing.
right. Yes, Shubham. Do you have a view on that? Freshers, work ex. What do you?
Yes, again, I'd just like to add to Sachin that I agree to Sachin that there's no particular fit for these roles. It is just about who you are as a person, what
Hmm.
they see in you in the interview. It's nothing related to your CV per se, like if you have workets or not. But yes, I would like to point out that there are some companies that might not take you because if you have a lot of workets,
Oh,
2 years plus or 3 years plus workets, there are few companies that won't prefer you, won't even shortlist you just on the basis of that. But there are very few, like a
okay.
couple of them or three of them at best.
Hmm.
But if you have a workets of less than 2 years, less than 3 years, in fact,
Hmm.
or you're a fresher, the background doesn't matter. It absolutely does not matter until and unless a particular FMCG company has come for a specific operations role or a very niche
Right.
specific role that they have in mind. So that's there. Otherwise, there are no restrictions. Anybody can apply for the role and there's no preference as such.
Got it. So, guys, if you're listening, basically, if to give a summary, if you have less than 3 years of experience, it doesn't really matter. I mean, if you have zero, one, or two, or three, but more than three, there are some companies which might not prefer you. That's basically the answer from to this question. Right. So we have the first question. Let's take the first question from Uday Majetia, which is what skills are required to get into sales and marketing? You both have given, I'm sure, multiple interviews. So, and maybe some of you are also into hiring now that you have graduated. So, what are the skills which you think are very important, which S&M companies look for?
I'll go first.
Go ahead.
Right, Shubham, go ahead.
Sure. Yes. So first thing that is required when it comes to a sales and marketing role is your willingness to talk to people, you being open because a sales role will require a lot of human interactions.
Right.
So communication skills is a very, very major point. Secondly, if you're sitting for interviews, openness, I would say open to possibilities, various options. Like you should not have a very particular fixed mindset as to I want to go into particularly sales or marketing.
Hmm.
Sales and marketing are terms that are used very interchangeably.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's not completely like it's not exclusive.
Hmm.
So when you talk about sales and marketing, you should consider both as same because till the time you don't have a sales experience, you can't get into marketing. That is the reality.
Right, right,
You need to know the ground reality, how things work in the first place
right,
to get into the field of marketing.
right.
So that is there. They see your personality for sure. You need to have really good communication skills and
Hmm.
storytelling. Yes, some companies do look for it. Storytelling is a very, very major part, especially marketing, specific marketing companies, and even if there are some ad companies, we
Hmm.
have Geo and all. So yes, they look for it.
But
These two skills are one of the important.
if I were to counter this,
Yes,
storytelling is a very it's a skill which you develop over time. So if let's say there is someone who's looking at this video and if he wants to develop his storytelling skills, do you have any suggestions on what he could do to improve it? Because I mean, I think that comes with only with work experience, right? What do you think?
yes, yes. So I'd agree to that. Yes, it's mainly like see again if you're sitting for a sales and marketing interview, you're there to sell yourself to the
Right, right,
interview.
right, right,
That is your first pitch
right,
to the panelists that you are a right fit for sales and marketing role.
right, right.
So it is just about the way you structure your answers. There has to be a flow in things. So that goes on to show a lot about you as a storyteller.
Right.
Suppose even if I'm introducing myself and there is a flow to it, like this is my background, this was my goal, I did this as a result, I got here, and this is my aim.
Right,
So that goes on to show a structure to the answers that I'm giving.
right.
So this basically in an interview that's a 15-minute conversation. So
Okay,
you get very few moments to explain these things and
right.
showcase these traits actually. So it's just through the answers, nothing else.
Got it. So basically, two things which you mentioned. One is the ability to tell a story, and second is
Yes.
willingness to talk to people. Uh, great, great. So got it. Shachin, anything you want to add to this?
Just adding to what Shubham said, which might it's this curiosity. So these companies would want to see students who are very curious to not only talk to people, understand their journey, understand their pain point, because customers usually do not come out and say, "This is my problem." So the more curiosity you show towards interacting with these people, understanding their behavior,
Right.
and getting to know about the business itself is an indicator that you might want to work with them and they might see you as a right fit. So that's the other point I would want to add to the things that Shubham did say. Just giving an idea on why storytelling is important, since Shubham highlighted. So it comes from my experience in Pidilite. So Pidilite's interview structure is interview process is such that the first two rounds are application test and psychometric test, and then
Okay.
comes an asynchronous video interview, wherein you will have a list of questions which should not be given beforehand. So as
Right.
soon as you open the test links, the questions pop up, and you'll have a minute or so to
Right.
answer the question.
Hmm.
That becomes a challenge if you're not good in communication or coming out with a good story to answer that particular question.
Right.
So, and that is a very crucial stage in the process, because that's more like an elimination stage and helps them create the shortlist for the interview process. So, likewise, a lot of companies, especially sales and marketing companies, are opting for this particular round, asynchronous video interview. So, I myself had a lot of asynchronous video interview back to back, which happens during the placement process. So
Right.
that's why it is important to develop this habit. Yeah, seniors will obviously guide us a lot on how to go
Hmm.
about doing that. So yeah, but then storytelling is very crucial, and this is one way I feel they check how good you are as a communicator or a storyteller.
Right. I remember giving a sort of asynchronized video interview, and it is very different, very weird. It's like you're speaking to a computer, which is very weird. But yeah, I get it. So thank you for sharing your experience, Shachin. Okay, so I think basically your curiosity, willingness to learn, and storytelling. These are the three major skills which you should focus on while to become a better S&M professionals. Okay. All right. Now let's move to one of the most important parts of the interaction, which is uh, how do you make the ideal CV, right? So first, let's start with some generic points about the CV. So I remember when I joined B school, my CV was very different from the CV which I had once I left B school. There are so many things which you learn during your B school days. So can you first share some maybe mention some generic points on how to improve your CV, and then maybe we can look at different segments like CADs, work experience, PORs, and extracurriculars.
So, talking specifically from an S&M profile perspective, in the 1 month left or couple of months left before students join their B school, they can probably take up a short internship or a live project and work with companies, just so that they get an idea about what a marketing research role offers or what an S&M role offers. So apart from that, not something that I would highly recommend, but then certain students do take up certifications if in case they feel they do not
Yeah,
have
yeah.
enough points to communicate about their interest. So
Adding one thing here, I think everyone on campus has the Google Digital Marketing Certificate.
yeah,
Please take it away.
so if someone does not have a relevant profile, or they feel they do not have a relevant profile for that particular domain, they do take up certification.
Right.
So I myself had done one certification, but then this was before I joined the school, just to understand about marketing from the course offered by Micah and Upgrad. That was useful, but then the certification in itself does not add a lot of value if you don't use the knowledge you've acquired. So that's why one month or 2 months internship just before joining college would be of really great help to students.
Great. So basically, if you can do an internship right now, also you have around 1.5 months. Go for it. It will be very helpful. And as Shachin said that certifications will not add that much value. What you'll have to do is you have to use those learnings which you got from those certifications. Great. Okay. Thanks, Shachin. Shubham, you want to add anything here? Your 2 cents on this?
No, it's just what Sachin said. There is nothing much that you can do. When it comes to finance, there are a lot of certifications. But when it comes to
Right.
marketing per se, We don't have certifications. Digital marketing is an emerging technical field in which you can get certifications, but it acts more like a talking point, and that too in very few interviews, if they pick that up.
Okay.
Overall, it's just that if anybody has the elements for a particular CV is a piece of paper that they look for 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes, even 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's just highlighting 2, 3 points that you can talk about in the interview, irrespective of whether it is related to marketing or not. Because you just need to show your traits, your skill
Right.
set. That can be from anything. It does not be related. It does not need to be related to SNM. But apart from that, once if anyone joins a business school, so
Hmm.
maybe like in the first term, what we did was we had the marketing subjects. So the projects that we did in the marketing subjects, we highlighted in it under the acad projects section. So again, that gives a talking point in the field of marketing and sales
Okay.
for a person who is not in that field.
Right. Also one question. Basically, we know that when you talk about finance and consulting companies, they have they focus a lot on your acads, that 999, yeah, 998, 988. They want a certain level of I mean marks, basically, right? What about S&M? Are they that sticky when it comes to acads or not? I mean, what has your experience been?
Finance and consult, I'd say, is more. It's very technical. Okay,
Right.
so
Right.
it's that is I believe one of the major reasons why it is more inclined towards the academics. But
Right.
when you specifically talk about sales and marketing, it is more about the person rather than the profile that the person has. Whether the person is capable enough or not, open enough or not, talking to people, his personality,
Right.
presence of mind is one of the very important things for a S&M person.
Right.
So it's more like for finance and consult, the bet is on their technical knowledge.
Right. Right.
But for sales and marketing, the bet is on the person itself and not the knowledge, because that is
Okay.
something that you learn on the job. So it's more about the skill set. Profile as such does not matter, except for, again, if there are a couple companies that do have this policy. See, again, we are sitting for placement, so getting an idea about why they select the candidates, it's not possible because
Yes. Yeah.
every company has a very different motive nearly for every campus.
Yeah.
So that's there. But mostly that is not the case for S&M companies.
And I think you raised a very good point that companies have a different motive from different campuses. So after being in a B school, you understand what this statement means, that sometimes companies come to a campus with a specific set of people in mind only. So yeah, you have to live with that. Okay, great. We have another question so let's take that up, and then we'll pivot back to one more question I wanted to ask to you regarding the CV space, which is about competitions, case competitions. But let's take this question and then let's pivot back to our discussion. So another question raised by Uday, which is, what is a day in the life of an area sales manager? Like, I mean, when you start, what exactly are you supposed to do in your first few days?
I'll take that up. So when you join a company, say FMCG company like HUL or Reckitt or say Pidilite or Nestle, the first year is a management training stint.
Right.
So that's how you start your career as, post which you will be posted as an area sales manager after the completion of your training period. So I'm so as an ASM, you will be in charge of the P&L statement of that particular region. You'll start managing the business of that particular region. So
Hmm.
say for example, if they give you as an ASM of Mumbai region, you'll have 4-5 districts around Mumbai along with Mumbai, and you'll have to manage the sales and revenue from those regions. So that's how you do it. So in the first year, you'll get trained for that. So you'll have a sales stint where you go on the field and literally sell products. So there is
Right.
no other way to go about it. 4-5 months of proper sales training will be done, because eventually you'll be managing sales people.
Hmm.
If you don't know how to sell the product, it becomes difficult. And then you'll of course have an area sales manager training stint as well. So yeah, as you grow, it will take, companies would want you to be in the area sales manager stint for 2 to 3 years based on my interaction with the seniors. Post
Okay.
which you can shift your career either into marketing or continue with sales. So that's what usually happens in the career.
Okay. But I mean, just to follow up on that, do people actually continue with sales? Do people actually prefer to continue with sales? Because my understanding is everyone wants to be in their office, in the air conditioned office, sitting on the cushy seat. Well, I mean, do people really want to continue with sales?
Yeah, it comes down to their personal interests. So until we explore sales, we might not really know what exactly is
Right.
happening. There are people, there are seniors I personally know who stick to sales and then become national sales manager or national accounts manager.
Got
So,
it.
and then there are a lot of them who have shifted to marketing and then taken up a brand manager's position. So, I think during that stint, you kind of explore and get to know what you really want and then take a decision. So that 2 3 years of ASM position or ASM stint kind of helps you figure out what you really want. So, I can't really comment on saying that
Right.
marketing is better or sales is better.
But great, thank you. I mean, basically, you have two options after ASM: either continue with sales, become the national head of sales, or either go to brand management. Great, that's very helpful. Thank you, Shachin. Anything you want to add here, Shubham, or should we move on?
I'd like to talk about sales. See, the reality is a lot of people don't think very highly about sales.
Right.
Let's just accept it that
Hmm.
people are, it's a very bad connotation, you can say, a salesperson or something. But
Hmm.
what we need to realize is that since I've done sales for 2 years before my MBA, it's that the kind of learning
Yeah.
that a person has after doing sales.
Hmm.
It's not a very fancy job, to be honest. You have to go on the field, interact with panwalas,
Hmm.
distributors, and everything. You'll be sweating all day.
Hmm.
It's not a very fancy and a good looking job, to be honest. But the kind of learnings you get, because see, sitting in an office, we are here creating marketing campaigns and all. But the reality, specifically in India, is the
Yeah.
person who sells. It
Hmm.
is not about the brand or the company as such, but even if you go to a pawn shop or even a normal kirana store, it depends more on the person rather than the product, sometimes in a lot of places, in a lot of
Right.
categories. And the overall personality development that we look for. You become, I'd like to use the term very jogadu.
Yeah.
If you're a salesperson,
Hmm.
the presence of mind increases. You are very open to talk to people. And difficult situations won't hamper you much because you are used to that every day, interacting with new people, new experiences. So I believe from an overall personality perspective, it is great for development, and you really get to know what goes on the grassroots level. So
Right.
when you go higher in your career in the marketing or brand management segment verticals, then you'll have a much better understanding of how things work and should work, how
Right.
to connect to people, and you will be much more efficient in your job rather than directly going into a marketing thing. Because a
Right.
lot of time happens that for brand management and marketing roles, a lot of companies do require a stint of ASM. If you
Oh,
don't have a stint for ASM, they won't allow you. They won't take you, prefer you.
right. Right.
So that is there. It just goes on to show that you have an understanding of the market, actually how things work on the ground. So that's there. Yes, it's not a very fancy job, but yes, it's really, I personally think it's really good.
Great. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Shubham. Let's take one more question from the audience member. So we have a question by Gautam, right? I think we sort of answered it, but let's just take it up once again. I'm a final year student in law, did an internship and want to switch to marketing. Is it possible? If it is not possible to get PORs, then how can I develop my CV? Right. So let's look at this CV. There are 4 sections. Cards, anyways, it's done. You can't do anything now. Right now, work can't do because internships are done. PORs or extracurriculars. So PORs, as we've discussed, let's assume that PORs are out of questions. I think the only solution left is extracurriculars, which is basically competitions. What do you guys think? What can be done by that person so that he has a more SNMC?
So as soon as these students start their college, a lot of competitions opens up specifically for first year students.
Right.
Say HUL9 is one of the most sought after and coveted competitions. Bond with Pidilite is one another. These competitions are launched just say about 3 4 weeks as soon as they start their campus life.
Right.
So and at the same time, these are a route for them to get PPAs or PPOs before their summer placement starts. So I would suggest competitions are a really great way to communicate to the recruiters, even if they don't win that.
Hmm. Yeah.
If I'm interested in sales and marketing and I have an understanding of the role. So a lot of companies say HUL, Pidilite, Bajaj. In fact, Nestle, in fact, started to opt for a case com route instead of coming for interviews since last year. Same happens with Reckitt. So they prefer to conduct a campus-wide case competition, wherein they don't compete in a typical case com where the other B school students are involved. So they get a very campus-specific case. They compete for it. The top teams get PPIs. So that's the easiest way to get into SNM role if they feel that they do not have the adequate profile to get shortlisted in the usual interview process.
That's actually a wonderful idea. I mean, then everyone is on the same line. Everyone has an equal chance. Great. Shubham, you want to add anything here? Should we move on to the next question?
Yes. So I would just like to say that from my perspective, sales, if you are talking about the sales and marketing per se, so competitions are the most important thing, irrespective.
Okay.
I put them even above academics.
Oh,
Because
right.
yes, because the thing is, like I was the national finalist for HUL line. So the thing is, the kind of learning that you get throughout the process, nothing can teach you more than that because you get a complete in-depth understanding of the whole industry.
Okay.
And you are creating a solution and pitching it.
Right.
So you are already thinking from an all-round perspective. For that process, you research a lot. And it's just like you just need one case competition or one PP or one PPA. Case competitions are the easiest way to get placed. Just by the way, for all my viewers, it's one of the easiest and the most something that you can control. Because placements per se, there is a factor of randomness to it. It's a bit about luck.
Right.
The viewers will get to know once they join their BG schools that it is a big issue. But yes, sales case competitions are something that you can have some control on. It is about what you pitch, and the learning is immense. And there are a lot of companies that won't come for finals or laterals or summers, but you can get in them through case competitions. So that is a very, very big factor. And once you have a good case competition or a CV, then it might help in some of your finals interview as well. It becomes a very good talking point.
Right.
So that is there.
Right. So I hope that answered your question. Gautam, what you can do is try to, participate in competitions and win them. Give your best. And if you want to basically, go for competitions, you can visit two websites mainly. I would suggest. Inside IIM obviously has a lot of competitions. Apart from that, Dare to Compete. I think these two websites have enough competitions. And also what you can do, apart from the competitions mentioned by Shachin and Shubham, which are mainly company focused, you can also look at competitions. Let's say IIM-K has their own fest where they have marketing competitions. MDI has their own fest which has marketing competitions. You can participate in them, learn exactly what the problems which the companies have, and then that will help you. And if you can get a PPO or PPI from a top company, then the life sorted. So Shubham, how was the experience, by the way, when you were a national finalist for HUL? I mean, how was that experience?
It was great, to be honest. Like it was the first competition when we entered campus. So for MDI, the session, the whole curriculum part started a bit late. So we had missed out on a few competitions, and HUL was the first one. So
did
HUL.
Did you win it in the first year?
Yes. It's for first years only. HUL line. So actually, what is the case is after COVID, the case competition scenario has changed a lot. Earlier, HUL used to have two competitions, one for first years and one for both the years. But from now on, they just have HUL line. I don't know what they are going to do this year, but in our year, we just had HUL line, and that is exclusively for the first years.
Okay.
And like a lot of FMCG companies don't offer case competitions to all the business schools. HUL is unique in that way. It offers the chance to get through line to all the business schools, irrespective of whatever it is. So there are few companies like that. They offer that. So again, like first, and we just started off with the basic pitch, listening to videos and all. It was since the first case competition for us, it was more like an exploratory stage that let's see what goes on and all. Next came, we went to the next stage, that was the campus national semi-finalists.
Right.
So yes, when we went there, so again, research, pitching the ideas, and they had asked us to make advertisements, videos.
Right.
For advertisements, and if you have an idea to pitch a brand in a particular way, then you have to make videos, you have to create a whole budget for that.
Right.
So it's very good because you get to know what are the loopholes in your ideas or your learnings as well. You get a very good idea about what your shortcomings are also in your thinking process. So overall, it's very, very good for development, and it will be really fun. It will be grueling to be very, very grueling, especially because most of the case competitions come just before summers. And once you join, we have that club committee entrance work. Initially, everybody has joined MBA. It's very overwhelming for them, given how rigorous the first 2-3 terms are. So it's a lot to take in, but yes, case competition. And once someone has that knack for once they get into the thing that how to present the idea, cracking case competitions is not very tough, to be honest. It's just about how you present the idea.
Right. Got it. Thanks, Shubham. So we also have a linked question to this. Is it possible to go for case competition in the first term? Yes, as Shubham said that he won a case competition. He was a national finalist of a case competition in the first term, in the first year of B school. Plus, in the first term also, you get many opportunities. You'll be flooded with case competitions. You will have so many case competitions that you will have to decide which one to take. That's how it is. So yeah, you will get many opportunities. Also, just asking out of curiosity, I think we've discussed acads now. We've discussed work experience. We've discussed extracurriculars. What we've not discussed is PORs. So, I mean, if I talk about marketing, so in consult, if you're a consulting enthusiast, you can go for a consult focused, positional responsibility. For marketing, you also have IIM-K has Empower, if I'm not wrong, and I'm sure MDI must also be having another interest group for marketing. Do you think being a part of these clubs helps? Also, apart from that, would you suggest someone to be a part of any other club, particularly? Do you think that will add a lot of value to the CV?
So when it comes to POR, they can get POR, but from my personal experience and personal view, you don't get to do a lot of things if you're part of club committee or IGs in the first time especially.
Okay.
You just get the POR. But then, yeah, of course, certain PORs like Students Council or Placements Committee or Student Alumni Committee does add a lot of value in your POR section apart from the interest groups. So I'd probably put committees over IGs and clubs because that wherein you actually start doing stuff. Say, example, placements committee, everyone knows what they do. Student council or student alumni committee have a lot of stakeholders to make sure that students have a good experience in the B school. So those PORs, I would probably rate them a little bit higher. And the other way to, of course, show interest towards marketing or per se the domain of their choice is joining the IGs. And joining clubs is just an indication that you are interested in something else. Say, we have Tripod in IIM Kozhikode, which is the photography club, or Footloose, which is the dance club. So these are more like things that project an extra version of yourself, giving out the personality you are, which will add benefit or showcase the entire personality you are apart from what the CV usually communicates. So definitely, as in term one, all the elections happen for these clubs, committees, and IGs, and students should try to get into one of the clubs, committees, and IGs. If they don't get, it's not a problem. I personally decided not to join any club, committee, and IG because in an online setup, the first 1 month was far too overwhelming, and I wasn't really sure what should I do. So I did not opt for any clubs, committees, and IGs, and did not affect my candidature for the summer. So if you're able to get in, it's good. If not, it's not a problem.
Got it. And I completely agree with your point that SCON or Placecom or Alcom, I think these three will help you irrespective of any profile you're applying to. Okay, moving on to the next question, which is a very, very important one. And I want to now talk about the interview process at the top B schools. Right now, when I think of an S&M interview, the only question which comes to my mind is, here is a pen, sell it to me in 1 minute. मेरे दिमाग में ऐसा आता है कि ऐसा ही होता है marketing interview. But honestly, guys, because you've been through the process, can you shed some light on exactly what kind of questions are asked? Yeah, what are the typical rounds? So I think Shachin had mentioned earlier कि psychometric भी हुआ था. There was apart from that, they had which other rounds did you mention? Yeah, psychometric के अलावा you had mentioned listed questions. Listed questions. Now, what other rounds do you have? And also, would you just mention some questions which are typical questions which are asked?
So we can bucket the entire process like ways. So the first round, typically for most of the companies, is a psychometric test combined with few problem-solving questions like quants or EALR. Depends on the company.
Okay.
Few of the companies say ITC, Coca-Cola, Nestle, all of them have an application round wherein
Okay.
they'll ask a set of questions which are basically a combination of behavioral questions or questions about your experience in any of your past work ex or college.
Right.
So that's a very crucial part, the application, which is a make or break round.
Right.
And then you have asynchronous interviews in some cases, or else you have group discussions, which is the most important round from my personal view because it makes or breaks someone's chances of going and giving the final interview.
Okay.
So basically, these are the four different stages: the psychometric uh, and the application stage, the group discussion, and two rounds of personal interview. So this is the basic structure followed by most of the companies. And as I mentioned, few companies have started to opt for the case com route, say Nestle,
Right.
Reckitt. So
Right.
you win the case com and directly give the interviews. So this is the basic structure of most of the S&M companies.
Right. So guys, one major takeaway from here is group discussions are very important. So, do prepare for them as well. Shubham, any views on, how to crack? You're on mute.
Ah, so adding to what Sachin said, there are a few different processes as well. Psychromatic and all is there. Like for Perfetti, I would like to mention that they gave a case com
Hmm.
initially as
Right.
a part of the application process. The first step was a case com. You had to submit a PPT, a solution PPT to
Right.
them.
Right.
So things are basically changing a lot. Every company wants to be unique in their own way when it
Hmm.
comes to the selection process.
Hmm.
So every year it's changing. Psychometric tests are there for a lot of companies. GD and PI will be there. GDs have been off late since because in the online setup it becomes
Uh,
very cumbersome.
yeah.
A lot of companies are opting to not take GDs. They're
Okay.
changing their stance. They're removing GDs from the whole process, and
Hmm.
we can have interviews anywhere from one interview to three, four interviews for S&M companies. Completely depends on
Okay.
the mood of the panelist as well.
Okay.
It's not even the placement process for a particular company might not be
Yeah.
standard across campuses. So that is there.
Okay. Okay. And so one more typical question which I have heard, correct me if I'm wrong. What I have heard that people also sometimes what they do is they ask you about which is so if let's say I am HUL, then I'll ask you out of all the brands, which is your favorite brand and how can I improve their positioning? I said, are these questions asked normally?
Yeah,
Yes, they are
these
asked.
questions, all the
Oh yes,
companies
Sachin, go
are
ahead.
Yeah. Sachin, go ahead.
irrespective of the company, all the S&M companies do ask this question, which
Right.
is their favorite brand. So, and more important than coming up with a brand name, it is important to know the brand in depth. So that's where researching about the company, researching about the brand comes out to be very important because uh, as soon as you mention the brand's name, the follow-up questions would be about the brand and the kind of work they do. So if you're not really prepared about the brand and the kind of business the company is involved in, then it becomes a very bad interview. So I attended 3 4 interviews and all irrespective of the company, all of them asked what is my favorite brand within the
Okay.
company's portfolio.
Right. Okay. Okay. Great. Anything else we can discuss here? Right. Also, can you also shed some light on how did you prepare for S&M interviews? So I remember in our B school at least, in my batch basically, what used to happen is there were a lot of notes which a lot of theory which people used to read. कि sales क्या होता है, marketing क्या होता है, Porter's 5 forces, whatever, blah blah blah. बहुत सारे theory लोग पढ़ते थे. So do you think all that is necessary? I mean, what are your views on how do you prepare for such interviews?
So I'll talk about my preparation angle. So I divided the entire preparation into four categories. One would be getting to know about the various marketing concepts and frameworks,
Right.
say segmentation, targeting, positioning, and all the frameworks,
STP.
Excel, Landsoft, ECG, all these things. They would not explicitly ask questions on these, but knowing them would be very helpful
Hmm.
because a lot of companies do discuss cases in the interview. So
Okay.
it's a common idea that only consulting companies have case interviews. Not like that. S&M companies do discuss case, but not as detailed and as various
Right.
case does not come. But then go-to-market strategies or pricing strategy are few kind of concepts that are discussed in the case. So all learning these frameworks would come handy. So the second category would be preparing for the various types of cases that could possibly be asked in a S&M company's interview. And then the third is behavioral, situational, and all the HR questions.
Hmm.
So the final round is getting to know you as a person. Whether you performed well in the previous round does not matter. So that's where storytelling, your curiosity, and all those skill sets that was listed by Shubham and me earlier comes into play. So prepare. There are certain standard questions that can be expected, and all the B school seniors would definitely help you get the questions. So preparing for them before the interview is a mandatory thing to do. And the final step is preparing for group discussions. So whether we like it or not, you need to be prepared for group discussions.
Right.
So you had to do that. So these are the four categories I bucketed my preparation for my efforts towards joining an FM camp.
Perfect. Right. Thanks. Shubham, you want to add anything here? You want to share your strategy as well?
So, apart from just the basics, like he said, Sachin said, preparing for your CV, apart from that, marketing, technical marketing knowledge is basically a check. They'll
Right.
just ask you a couple of questions just to see whether you know or not.
Right.
You are coming across as a marketing enthusiast. That is the basic thing that you should know.
Right.
But
Fair.
even if you don't know that, that is not an issue. That is not something that is going to
Okay.
cost you the interview.
Right.
It's not the case at all. But knowing them, yes, it comes handy because when you throw those terms, when you're answering the questions,
Yeah.
goes on to show that you are more learned. Apart from that, specifically for FMCG, as you said, that they ask particularly which brand you like
Hmm.
and which products you like. So this is my approach as to I go for why. It's not about what product, but why you like the product.
Okay.
And a person can use that to resonate with their personality, the brand. They can resonate with their personality and end up selling themselves.
Hmm.
And one more thing that the companies ask about is, see, in the FMCG sector, we have seen a lot of controversial advertisements. So
Right.
they might ask for your viewpoint about that. I had an actual interview, so they have had a couple of controversial advertisements
Right.
regarding Surf Excel and all. There are particular brands that sub brands that they launch. We had for Tata different jewelry
Yeah.
brands and all.
Obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's just that knowing about them
Right.
and having an opinion about them. See, they are not concerned about the facts. Everyone can Google it and tell them the facts in 5 minutes. They want to know what is your opinion about those things, where you stand, what is your thinking process around the whole thing.
Right.
Be it the advertisement, be it how we have asked this question also. Suppose if you are the brand manager
Hmm.
and this is the situation, how you would have handled it. This was a question asked to me
Right.
in an
Okay.
interview.
Hmm.
So that is the case. They are going to ask this again. It is just to see how you handle difficult situations. It's about the person and not more about the knowledge.
Great. And I mean, talking about Surf Excel, I know their brand campaign was Daag Achha Hai. Quite interesting. I mean, completely opposite from what they want to say. Great, yeah. And yeah, I also heard about this, that they sometimes ask which is your favorite advertisement and why is it. So yeah, you're right. Right. So basically, if I were to summarize what Shachin and Shubham said, there are 3 or 4 things which you should focus on. Starting with some technical details. These are not deal breakers per se, but then they'll help you. They'll help build your profile basically. Second is you should get to know the brand which you are interviewing for. Thirdly, you should also be very clear about yourself, which is what you've done, what you want in life, some basic HR questions. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years, etc. Lastly, group discussions, also focus on group discussions. They could be asked, they could not be asked, but there is a chance that they will be asked. So always it's better to be prepared for that as well. These are the 3-4 things. Don't stress too much on the technical details. It's all about storytelling and all about basically showing your interest in marketing. Okay, guys, last couple of questions and then let's try to wrap this up. Yes, so Gautam has asked that also there is no CV shortlisting. As we've discussed, most companies will go for CV shortlisting. There are few which will not, but obviously making the CV is very, very important. So yeah, focus on that first. Okay. All right. So Jay has asked, how can an MBA aspirant build his profile better to make up for poor grad marks? Do I need to have projects internship in the domain I want to pursue? This is also, once again, we've discussed in detail. Marketing will not look at your acads in too much detail. I mean, if it's okay if you don't have if you don't have a 999 profile as well. And we've discussed in detail each of how a POR will help you or how an internship will help you. I think Shachin had mentioned that internship will be very, very valuable. POR might not add that much value unless you are from Placecom SCOM. That is what we've discussed. Guys, you want to add anything here? Maybe give some. Also, yeah, as I mentioned, please go for case competitions. They can really add value to a CV. Apart from that, anything else you want to add here, guys? Or I think
that's about it when it comes to CV. I don't think anything else is even.
right. Great. Okay. Let's move to the last, to the last couple of questions, which is now, guys, what would your advice be to the students who are joining in right now? Summers will probably be in September, October, November. I think in that period, depending on which B school you are from. So, what advice would you give to the people who are coming in? Do you think they should start preparing right now? Maybe later? What should they do with their time right now? And any other generic advice you want to give to your juniors?
So my personal advice would be not to indulge too much and think about anything related to these things before they start, because this is the time that they can relax and get themselves ready for what's up. Because as Shubham mentioned earlier, term 1, 2, 3 and all is kind of very hectic. Mostly it's overwhelming. So not to get pressured because of what your peers do is something very important, and I learned, because FOMO is something we get every day when you join a B school.
Yeah.
When summers happen and when you join with an intention to join SNM, say you join with an intention to join SNM, seeing your friends prepare for multiple domains just gives you that feeling that okay, I'm not good enough to be here. So that's the kind of feeling that every student will get during the initial days. Not succumbing to peer pressure and focusing on what you really want out of the next 2 years is more important. That's what I personally would have wanted to do when I joined this school. So I want the incoming students.
Talking about FOMO, I remember there are few people who are very clear कि उनको करना sales marketing है, but you see the top finance companies come and वहाँ पे भी apply कर देंगे. So I mean there's an urge to apply everywhere, even though you don't want to go to that company. Shivam, anything you want to add here? Any 2 cents to the juniors coming in?
Nothing, just that 2 years are going to be the best years of their life, to be very honest, and
Right.
not to take a lot of pressure regarding what's coming.
Right.
Things will come as they do, and everybody adapt to them. It's not that you will face a very big issue, you will fall behind others. Nothing of that sort. Just they have to be on their, they have to ready to be on their toes and adapt to situation very quickly. That
Right.
is my 2 cents on my personal experience. That
Hmm.
right from the moment they enter, because the online setup has made everyone very laid back.
Hmm.
I was the online batch. So when we joined, so initially, since everybody was at home and all, and since for the past 2 years, everybody has nearly been at their homes.
Yeah.
So they have made people very laid back.
Hmm.
So take the experience as it comes and just try to fish for opportunities. Like things might get overwhelming initially, but like case competitions and everything, try everything that you want, explore as much as you can. It's a 2 year sabbatical that you're getting from life
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
explore whatever you want. So that is there.
Completely agree with Shubham. As someone who has graduated 2 years back, I can tell you that life only gets worse after you graduate. So yeah, enjoy whatever, how much ever you can when you are in a B school. Let's take one last question because it has been asked by an audience member called Eden Saha, which is a one-pager resume only taken into consideration, or should we have a detailed CV ready before basically? So I'll give you some. Yeah, Shubham, please go ahead.
Yes, Akshay was saying something good.
Okay. Right. So basically, the question is a one-pager resume only taken into consideration, or should we have a detailed CV ready beforehand? So if I give an IIM-K perspective, basically what we are asked is to prepare a one and a half, or one and a quarter type CV, have those points ready, and then remove whichever points, after talking to various people, understand which points are not that great, and remove them. So that is a best practice which is recommended by my college. But honestly speaking, when I talk about my CV, I never had that many points कि मैं 1.25 page कर पाऊँ. So I think a one page will be good enough. You should have few good points rather than having 15 random points which are not great, is my opinion. Guys, you want to add anything here?
Nothing much, Akshay. So, same was followed in my batch as well in IIM-K. So,
Right.
it's very difficult to come up with a CV that's 2 pages long. And the 1.5 page itself is a very big task. And people just do certification just so that they fill the space. But as Akshay mentioned, having few good points is
Right.
much more important than having multiple points. So, yeah.
But I think that the problem is ulta. एक पेज खत्म करने में प्रॉब्लम होती है. So yeah. Also, guys, for all those who are listening in, if you are keen on making your CV, getting professional help, you can also sign up for the Inside IIM Summer Placement Bootcamp. We'll probably guide you. I'll be one of the mentors. I'll be helping you make your CV. So if you are very interested or very keen on, if you want to start working on your CV right now, and if you want professional help, do let us know. We'll try to guide you. Right, guys, with that, we have come to the end of the session. We have taken most of the questions which were asked. So great. Yeah. Firstly, I really want to thank the panelists, Shachin and Shubham, for taking out time on a Sunday. So thank you, guys. I'm sure this was very helpful for all the audience members. Also, I want to thank the audience members for tuning in. We hope that it was very helpful for you, and we hope that you learned something new. And you have few takeaways from this session. See you next week once again on the same time, where we discuss how to get into GenMan roles on campus. So once again, have a good weekend. Take care and goodbye.
Bye, guys.